My name is Michael Strumsky, and this is my podcast, People More Interesting Than Me. Each episode, I'll interview a person with a different background to try to understand what circumstances, family, or tragedy has made them into the individual they are today. Enjoy. Start me out on, I guess where you started out.
So I started out in life in Virginia, where I've been born and raised, basically. Had a couple years in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and my dad worked at Ross Laboratories. But basically, all of my conscious memories of childhood were in Virginia, specifically Churchville, Virginia, where I lived from age 5 until I got married. I never lived anywhere else other than there. So that's where it started out. Super, super small town. The population is in the hundreds, low hundreds, and I would describe it as I don't know what you want to know here, but that's where it all started. Virginia is a very it's foundational for me and a very important place to me, to the point, and this story will probably zigzag a little, but when I started at Flow, I said that I
And
was like, hey,
sorry to interrupt. What is Flow for people who don't?
Flow, yeah. So I work at a sports media company called Flow Sports in Austin, Texas, and I started there in 2013 as a content creator for Flow Wrestling, which is like basically the ESPN of Olympic and college wrestling and high school wrestling. And so I started this dream job. I was like, just so you guys know, like, I'm never gonna move to Texas, just so y'all know, right? And just I'm here. This is here. I have this young family. My parents and my brothers were all here. It's just like kind of a thing. And of course, as we'll later get to, 3 years later, I moved to Texas. But we can get there later. But I loved Virginia. I loved the small town. I feel like my parents kept like family and faith like as like two of the main pillars in life. So church was a big part of growing up in Churchville. Sports were always a big part of life. And yeah, went to Churchville Elementary, walked there, went to Buffalo Gap High School. That's where my dad went. So we're just kind of deep roots in the community. My dad's from a really small town called Deerfield, which is like towards the, I guess, closer towards the West Virginia border. Not quite in West Virginia, but darn close. The county we grew up in borders West Virginia. So anyway, deep roots, small town, very cool. I thought a great place, a place where I never viewed it as like a disadvantage. I think some people would view like, man, you go to this little rinky dink school, this sort of like, how is it? But like, you look at Michael, like the exports of Buffalo Gap, like freaking, we got Ivy educated, we've got doctors, we have high achievement. And I was like, I never really thought like, oh, if I went to some big school, I would be able to do other things. Like, it never felt like an obstacle here. I think partially that was like my parents instilled a lot of belief and confidence in me and us. So I never viewed it that way. But I think it's funny because people will often refer to Buffalo Gap and Churchville, like in the wrestling world that I come in contact with, because I refer to it so much. I talk about coaching at Buffalo Gap and going there and what a great place it is in the Shenandoah Valley. So it's like, where I'm from is very much a part of me.
Okay. And I guess when you were first starting out, like you had one year of wrestling, is that right, in high school?
Okay, yeah. So this story, essentially a very, very, very small person and athletically, kind of
What would
whatever.
you say your height was back then?
My height was 5. Well, okay, so probably I was not quite 5 feet when I was a freshman, and I was over 5 feet, but I didn't get over 100 pounds till I was like a junior ish in high school. And then I was like about 115, 120 when I graduated. So pretty small guy. I'm obviously much bigger and larger now, as you can tell. I hit puberty like after high school, but so I was always super into sports, but I was into like baseball and basketball and like big people sports. And so I eventually matriculated to cross country and track, which I loved, and I actually had some level of quote athletic success there. I made varsity as a sophomore, and our team was second in the state, and that was a really cool thing. And then my senior year, the way this all went, my senior year of high school, these wrestlers came out for wrestling, and we're doing a cool down. I could take you almost to the spot where they brought this up, which is really weird because at this point in time, this is a nothing conversation about anything. But for whatever reason, I remember it. I remember the road because we would run all these cool roads in the middle of nowhere in Swope, Virginia. And these wrestlers were like, "Hey, you could come out for the team. You could start. You'd be able to beat this guy and make the team." And so, like, to me, being a varsity athlete, it's like a cool thing. And it didn't, because I'm a 17-year-old idiot. I'm like, wait, what are these guys basing it on that I could beat this guy when I've never actually even done this sport? They're just saying it to get me to come out for it. And it worked. And it was funny because like the coaches had like asked me to come out, basically every year. And just because in small school, it's hard to fill a lineup. You see someone that's small and their shoes are tied. Basically, you're a recruitable athlete to a coach. So they would ask me, and I'd be like, I don't know what this is. I don't understand this. I don't know. No, thanks. Not for me. And for whatever reason, I guess just the Lord intervened, and I ended up saying, all right, what the heck, senior impulsivity, maybe. So I just did it. And it was obviously one of the best decisions of my life, even though that season was extremely difficult for me, because if you know anything about wrestling, no one is good at the start. There's no like beginner's luck with wrestling. You've got to, it's so nuanced. It's so vast, the skills you have to be good at it. So I'm doing this sport, and the biggest impact for me out of doing wrestling was like having my eyes completely opened about what it actually means to work hard. Like, imagine at 17 years old, I'm a run-of-the-mill sort of student. I think I'm a hard worker in school. I do my homework. I do my thing. I think I'm a hard worker in cross country. I don't walk. I try hard. I think I do my best. And then you're like faced with this, like, I don't know if I can get up. I don't want to get up. Our practices were insane. I had a very good coach named Chris Robinson. He's now a coach at Wilson. He's from Pennsylvania, which is like a wrestling hotbed. And our practices were nuts. We would start the practices with like really intense conditioning, which, cross country guy, I'm cool with this. I can run it. But then you get into the drills and the technique. And that's like, okay, that's like really challenges your mind, because you really have to think through like moving your body in a way you've never done it, and you're learning this stuff. And then you go back to a probably the most physically demanding part, which is the actual live wrestling, where I'm like, to wrestle and be bad is to get beaten, and to get beaten physically, and to like experience real pain and like a beatdown from someone who is better than you and knows this stuff. And it's like, you don't just lose a race because someone runs faster than you. It's like, no, you're getting beat. And we're doing this for a long period of time. And I'm doing this, and I'm not going to be good. And there's no way I'm going to be good at this year. So I'm never going to have any level of success. So basically I remember so many practices. I was just like, look over, we're in this old gym at Buffalo Gap. And I look over and I just see the door. I'm like, you could just walk out right now. You could justify this to your friends. No one's going to care. The coaches probably they're not going to chase me down to bring me back as a senior. Like, this is my last year. Like, you just walk out, save face, and in 2 days, no one's even going to bring it up. And you could just be done with this crap. You don't have to deal with this getting beaten on and all that stuff. And for whatever reason, I didn't do it. And then I kept doing it and kept doing it. And you finish these practices, and then you condition again when you're already really tired. But then I'd finish these practices, and after a period of time, it's like, oh man, I'm doing some man stuff right now. And you kind of feel like that for the first time, like, oh, I've got so much more to give. I haven't even been close to doing what I could do. I didn't even know what my body was capable of, even though all I was doing really was enduring. But at that point, I had never really brought myself to that point of discomfort. And then it really made me, it really changed how I viewed running. So I ran track after that. And basically, like distance running, the way I boil it down is not elite distance runners, like basically how long you can keep yourself in the highest amount of pain threshold without like redlining and completely like faltering. You want to keep yourself there. And so there's this continuum of going hard that you can go. And so like you can just get closer to that red line in your training and stay there. And that's what I learned. And then I learned how to do that in training. And if you do something every single day, like running at a red light, you're going to get faster. And so like I knocked like, I can't remember. It was probably like 40 seconds off my best 2-mile time ever as a senior in high school. And I knew it was because of wrestling. And I knew I had gotten tougher. So then I left wrestling as a senior bad. I did bad, but I did end up starting though, which is, so I guess they were kind of right. But they definitely just made it up that I would start just so I would come out. But I left wrestling that year with a lot of regret because I felt like this could have been my thing, right? I felt like this is actually the thing that I could have been good at because my size is an advantage. I'm 115 pounds and I'm not weak. You know, I could have done, I got stronger, right? And I could have been good at this, but I couldn't. So then I was like, okay, well, Ryan Pyles, you need to do this, bro. Because Ryan was like me, probably very similar build, size, athletic ability. But Ryan had that I lacked. Our family dynamic's interesting because Ryan's like 5 years younger than me, but like he's kind of like the big brother in a way, in that he was always like the most mature, Strumsky, he's just like this.
The old man of the family. He's older than Tracy.
He's older than Tracy. And this guy, he was always the straight A student. He was the hardest worker, most responsible, blah, blah. But I was like, this dude could be good at wrestling if he wrestled. So got him started it in 7th grade. And then I had this like focus in my mind. I was like, okay, I want to help him. I want to help him get as good as possible. The problem being, I don't have the tools to help him because I only did this for a year. So then I like set out on this quest, which, that everything sort of connects here. So now I'm like, all right, I have this like deep hunger for knowledge of this sport so I can help my brother. And so I'm like reading everything I can. I'm finding all these tapes and DVDs and ordering stuff off eBay because that was like a thing, and reading everything online. And this is like, 2005, 6, 7. So there's not a lot out there. Like it's maybe before YouTube. It was like before Twitter even. And so I'm just like on this vision quest for knowledge so I can help Ryan. And then I end up, this was like a huge deal to me. Coach Robinson kind of like, he sensed that I was like really into this. He let me help the kids club practices just as like an assistant coach. And I thought that was a huge thing for me. I thought that was a huge deal. And it was a big thing for him to give me that opportunity when my knowledge wasn't there. Like I'm not qualified to coach wrestling right now, but he let me do it because I think he sensed that in me, which I really appreciated. So then I was kind of got my foot in the door at Gap, and then eventually Coach Robinson left to be an athletic director, which left the old coach Lopez back in charge of the program he started in 1989. And then I'm kind of like one of the last people still around, and I was going to work hard. So then I ended up being being assistant coach for Coach Lopez. Similar thing with Coach Lopez and with it, Coach. It's just like everything for whatever reason just ratcheted my obsession up more. It didn't matter what happened. I was just like more and more into this thing. So I'm watching everything I can. I'm reading everything I can. And then I start to get this overlap of like, so I'm trying to build as much coaching skill and wrestling knowledge as I can. And then simultaneously, I start to become a huge just fan of the sport. Like I love watching. I've like figured out college wrestling was a thing and then started getting into that. Then I found this website called Flow Wrestling, which was posting videos of wrestling, which was like really hard to find. And so now I'm like really pouring into the fan side and like really learning a bunch of stuff about that. And all the while I'm learning how to coach and teach. And I was a total spaz assistant coach at Buffalo Gap. And I did get kicked out of a tournament once for something I said to an official. It was not profane, but it was not appropriate.
I was just it was very witty. That was the issue. That really hit him.
Yeah, I did. Do you know what I said?
No,
it was I think I asked if he had a date later or something. I was like, and because he called. So my guy Zach Ritchie, who shout out, I don't know, you may have met Zach at some point, but maybe. He was a state champ at Buffalo Gap, and he was like my guy. I got him as an 8th grader when he started. We kind of came up to like, he was like one of the first young guys I got to coach all the way up through his entire career. So he was my dude. It was a bad pin call, but it's like it's high school officiating. Like I have so much more. You always have more perspective after the fact. I didn't at the time, and I didn't later that year. But after I got in trouble, I started to think a little bit differently, and I'd probably be a different coach now. I know I would be, but I was definitely a spaz. So what's happening at this point is like, well, one, I actually have a real job that is like that I'm supposed to be like actually doing, and which I was a teacher, but I'm like really just spending all the time I can coaching and reading about wrestling. And then I go to this, I remember specifically I went to this Iowa wrestling message board, and it was like important. I forget the title, was basically like important or best wrestling website. So I was like, oh, I need to know what this is. And there's 2 links in there. I don't remember the others, but the 2 links in there, one was to Flow Wrestling, which I already mentioned. And the other one was to a place called thewrestlingtalk.com, which was a message board. And this is like where the community was. Like it's not like football where you go to work and you talk about like the Redskins game. This is college wrestling in Virginia. No one is talking about this. Even like the wrestling coaches in Virginia at this time, like they don't know what's going on either. So I have like no one to talk about in my.
Because it's all about the money, basically. I mean, like you've got football, baseball, hockey, all those people pumping money online for ESPN, SportsCenter, stuff like that.
So wrestling doesn't get the love that I felt it deserved, and like that's one of the like core values of Flow Wrestling and Flow Sports. But like, so anyway, the community was at this message board, and I just started being like a message board dude, warrior, whatever. And I was like, I enjoyed the back and forth. I enjoyed arguing about wrestling. I enjoyed having opinions and like making predictions and seeing who was right and who was wrong. And I was a spaz there too, for sure. But that's just like where I like to spend my time. I love talking about wrestling with people. And that message board, like got me up to speed so fast. Like I was able to like learn so much, and from all these people that really knew wrestling, and which was where I was trying to get to. And I guess I'm just doing the Christian Pyles biography right now, but basically, everything connects. So I don't know really when to stop. So I get on these message boards. I do this for years and years and years, and I sort of get a reputation of someone that knows a lot about college wrestling. And so I get asked to do by Willie, who was the site head for Flow Wrestling at this time. He's like, hey, would you want to do the Division I rankings for Flow Wrestling? And I said, heck yeah, for sure. And just because, oh my gosh, dude, 2 years ago, no one knew who I was. Now I'm going to be doing the rankings for like Flow Wrestling, which is at that time and years before, it is the wrestling website. It was totally unparalleled then. And it's only gotten better since. But like at that point in time, it was revolutionary. It was the coolest place you could be. So I was like, dude, I get to do the rankings because they didn't have Division I rankings. So I was like, yes. And then me and my buddy Ben, who was another message board junkie like me, we did the rankings, and we did a really good job, and they really performed for them. So that's how I kind of got on Flow's radar, because it's an unpaid thing, but they performed. So I was like, I got the sense from them that like, hey, this is going well. So I was like, okay, what can I do to like stand out a little bit more? because I'm angling. I'm thinking I've got this job and I've got this thing, but I know what I want to do. And I really think I can do it. So I'm like, why don't I start writing previews of some upcoming duels and just send it to them? And so I started doing that. I just started writing. I remember writing previews while I was working at another job. This is not good. This is not good behavior. This is deviant. But like, that's what I was doing. I had a little free time, got the thing. I would write it on paper. I would actually write out the previews on Notepad, and then I would go and type it later that evening. So I did that. And then those ended up performing well. And on top of them performing well, because Flow Wrestling at this point in time didn't have a lot of written content. They didn't have a lot of Division I written content. So I'm like, basically, if anyone had done this, if anyone had done Division I rankings at the time, they would have done pretty good. And if anyone was sending them previews, they probably would have performed, because it wasn't out there. So, but I happened to be the one that did, and fortuitously. And so, but then on top of like sending them previews, I was on an absolute, and maybe it was because I was as locked in as I'd ever been on wrestling. Even more so than now, because now my responsibilities are really different. So now, but all I would do was like, there's 10 matches in a duel. I would write something, my thoughts, the technical analysis, whatever of all 10 matches, and I would make a prediction. And on like multiple occasions, I was right 10 for 10. So they're like, they think I'm some like genius, fortune teller. Like I know all this stuff. What?
Nosferatu.
Yes, precisely. And so actually, I'm getting
Nostradamus. I got a vampire mixed with the keep going.
So I'm getting all these right, and now they think I'm like some genius, which anyone that knows me knows that is not the case, but I'm getting them right. So what, you can't say anything about that. So I freelance for a year, and I'm just sending them as much as I can. I'm doing the rankings are doing well, and that's all good. And then so we're in like 2013 right now. In 2013, one of the guys left, Joe Williamson, left for a coaching opportunity. So they had a content position opening. And so I interviewed with Martin, who was the CEO at the time, and I got the position, and I started working remotely as a content creator for Flow Wrestling. And it was like, I didn't care that it was and more importantly, my wife didn't care that it was a pay cut or whatever. I literally made less doing that job than I did teaching, but it was like, don't care. I'm doing this. Let's just see what comes of it. So that basically, that got me to where my career was at Flow Wrestling and Flow Sports. And it's been great. And really before that, the time between like senior in high school and then like I spent going to school and working at a psychiatric hospital for kids and adolescents. And then, so I worked there for a couple of years, and then all the while I'm going to school while I'm working there. And then I got my teaching certification, and as luck would have it, a job opened up at it's called CCCA, Commonwealth Center for Children and Adolescents. It serves the entire state for kids that are, it's a locked facility for kids that are a danger to themselves or others. So it's like, you have psychotic kids, you have suicidal kids, you have really dangerous kids, or worked with literally a convicted murderer there. So it's like all kinds from all over the state. And it was so formative for me, because you know where I'm from.
It worked on your wrestling holds then too.
Well, that was one of the worst parts of the job, is that there is a physical element of restraint for these kids' safeties, for breaking up fights. But yeah, that was actually a thing that was helpful, because you could safely constrain kids and prevent them from hurting others or themselves. So that was valuable in that way. But one thing that was great is, I went to school living at home and just commuted to a branch campus of Old Dominion. And so I never really went away to college. I never lived in a dorm. I never did that. I only lived at home, and then I got married. So working at CCCA was like this great experience in learning different people from different places. And Virginia is like, you've got Southwest Virginia, coal mine country, rough, boondocks, rednecks, kind of a little bit like I'm from, but a little different. Then you've got the Tidewater area and Northern Virginia. So all different backgrounds and races and everything all at this one place. And it was awesome for me. And I loved it. And I loved being around different people that didn't just, born in Augusta County, lived in Augusta County. Everyone they knew was from Augusta County, and they went to Buffalo Gap. And it's just, just white people everywhere from the very similar background. So it's like, I got to meet all kinds of kids and work with all kinds of different people. And that was great for me. And you learn a lot about how to work with people and how teams work and how to de-escalate things, in difficult situations. And it was an awesome experience. It's a really, really hard job. It's a dangerous job. A lot of people got injured. Fortunately, me, Ryan, and Weston all worked there, all did the same job. We were all healthy, no injuries or anything. So I worked there as a direct care staff, which is like, you're just like hanging with the kids, keeping them safe, keeping them busy, talking to them, whatever. And eventually I got my teaching certification. Then I ended up teaching there, elementary special education. And the only reason I wanted to be a teacher, sadly, was because that works with coaching. So I wanted to coach, but coaching is like, it's not a career. Like, not for me, it would never be an option for me to do it. But like, all I wanted to do was coach. I just want to be a wrestling coach. That's all I did. That's all I was like really thinking about was wrestling and coaching wrestling and watching it. So I ended up teaching for 3 years before I ended up working at Flow Wrestling, and I coached for I think 8 years at Buffalo Gap. I don't know why I never remember the exact number, but about that long at Buffalo Gap. And that was a great experience. And one of the the greatest thrills of my life, I've had so many exciting times at Flow, but like coaching kids to reach their goals was like the best thing. That was the highest high I can remember reaching in doing something that wasn't like family related, like, getting married or having kids or stuff like that, the boring stuff.
Yeah.
It was so rewarding and so awesome. And so I miss it very badly. I'm coaching youth wrestling right now. I'm coaching my son and my daughter at their club, but it's not the same. It's not like everyday grind for a kid for 4 or 5 years straight. And and my approach to coaching was a little different because like most coaches, it's like, okay, we've got the season, and then the off season is kind of hands off. But I was like, the only way I know how to get kids good is to have them do this every day with me. Because I'm not like some master coach, and all these kids are starting like there's not a lot of kids that started in 3rd grade and did it all the way through. I'm starting with kids that are 9th graders. So I got to get them up. And the only way to get them up is to do this all the time. So I ended up spending way too much time coaching, not enough time teaching, not enough time thinking about that. But somehow it all worked out. I don't understand how it happened.
Yeah. I mean, speaking on your son, I saw your post, I think your last one about him getting second.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't read the whole thing, but the thing that hit me most was like the fact that he was just like, when's practice tomorrow? And I thought that was the best part, to be fair.
Yeah, that got me fired up. I was like, dude, yes, because wrestling is so freaking hard. It's the hardest thing you can do. It is like, it's the hardest sport. It is the most demanding sport. It's like, he's not cutting weight or anything like that right now, but the demands are really intense. And it's like, for him, all those kids are so courageous to do what they do, because it's like, man, you're in this stupid uniform, like, where you're half naked. Another 10-year-old boy is beating you up, trying to beat you up. You're trying to beat him up. All these people are screaming around you. Your parents are watching, your friends are watching. It's like a really intense, stressful thing. So that he did it and wanted to do it some more afterwards was awesome. And they're both special. He's special though.
Yeah. And the other thing I've noticed, like I said, I only had 1 year, but I did football and all those other sports. But what I noticed about wrestling, it's kind of like a 24/7 sport. It's not like football or basketball or soccer where you leave practice and you just eat and rest. You gotta think about weight. You gotta think about. I mean, unless you're really on the margin, you don't really have to, as long as you're not going to Chipotle or something like that every day. you usually can handle that. But you just got to make sure all parts of your, like, say you got a weak shoulder in soccer, you can kind of power through it, like you were saying with the redlining. But in wrestling, it's like your whole body is getting cranked back. And it's like, if there's a weak spot, it's going to be found almost immediately.
Yeah.
So it's 24/7. It's not just like clock in, clock out, like you're saying.
Yeah. And I think that's what, like, why I think I often wonder why wrestling got such a hold of me. And I think it's how imbalanced. Well, I think one of it, the personalities and the stars in wrestling are like, they're not like people you meet. These are people who you would describe as off. Like, they are against the grain mentality. It is on their maniacal focus, their intensity is like, you don't run into people like this. And I think that is the one thing that drew me in as a fan. Like, Ben Askren, for me, was like the first college wrestler that I followed and loved and thought was like, this is the coolest. I love the way this guy thinks differently. And I just like that about wrestling, is that like how disciplined these people have to be and how driven you have to be to pursue something that, when I started following wrestling, it's like, these people aren't doing it for money, because there's not money in wrestling. It's changing. It's improving. It's improved a ton. Even just since I've been working at Flow, I've seen how wrestling has begun to professionalize itself. But even still, it's it ain't basketball, it ain't football, it ain't many of the other sports. And so it's a really pure pursuit. And I love that about it. And I think a lot of it is like, I wish I was good at it is a big part of it too.
Yeah.
Because I love doing, I think one of my things is like, I feel like I love every aspect of the sport. I literally love wrestling. I like wrestling people. I think it is really, really fun. Even though it's really difficult, it's a fun thing to do. I really like coaching it. I like teaching the sport of wrestling. I really like following. I like just watching good wrestling. So I think maybe somehow that all happened, and I became just like a wrestling super nut.
Yeah.
Much to the chagrin of Ryan and Weston. They definitely got tired of all my wrestling stuff for sure.
But I know you mentioned a couple of people that helped you out, like especially, I guess, starting off the coach at Buffalo Gap, and then Willie at Flow Wrestling.
Yeah.
Sure. Is there anybody who kind of, I guess, I wouldn't say got into your path, but kind of, I don't know, told you kind of slow down or go to the safe route?
I would say no. I think that's probably why it happened the way it did, is that I had, I feel like I had a wind at my back the whole time, because I got married at 21. So through much of this, before I didn't start working at Flow till I was like 25 or 26, I think. So I just had a wind at my back with her support, like unwavering. At no point in time did she say, you are spending too much time watching wrestling. You are spending too much time on these stupid message boards. Like, I don't know why she didn't. I don't know why she didn't just say, you have to stop. When I told her about the freelance position, she's like, yeah, do it. Like everything, she was just so supportive of it when it made no sense at all. My parents thought it was really, really cool. They thought it was an awesome thing that I could do it. And I think I always had, I think my parents just instilled, I really believed I could do it. Arrogantly, but I once I started to understand the sport, I was like, something in me, I was like, I just know I can do this. I know I can do it. And I think that was part of it too, that I knew it. Now, whether I was right or not, I don't know. But like in my heart, in my head, I was like, I know I can do this. And I think my parents gave me a lot of confidence. If you know Debbie and Tracy, like Debbie's boys can do no wrong. We're the best. Even when we're not the best, you're the best. It's like, no, Mom, I literally got 6. You were there. You just saw. Okay, I'm the best. And so like, I was just confident in that. And so as far as impediments, I mean, there was self-inflicted impediments with, do I move? Do I really make the toughest decision was moving to Texas, right? Because I can't remember if I said this before the call or during, but I said I would never move. I think I said it on the call. I said I would never move, and the reasons for that were, my family, my brothers. I wanted to stay involved in wrestling around here. I wanted my son to go to Churchville, and then Natalie to go to Churchville when we had her, and so on, and go to wrestle at Buffalo Gap. And this is a great area. It's a great place to have a family. I remember walking through the backyards to my buddy Victor Ritchie's house, and we would ride bikes to the elementary school and play basketball all day and play baseball and all kinds of games. And then I just wanted that. I was like, that's what I want. And Katie's family is only 2 hours away. Texas just doesn't make sense. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and moving them away from their grandparents would be devastating, it was a devastating thing for my parents and Katie's parents, and Ryan and Weston. It was not easy because they were the first ones, right? We were Caleb and Natalie first. Now Ryan's got sweet baby Ella now, taking a little pressure off my kids, a little bit of the cuteness over there. So that was the hardest part, was like getting out of my own way and being like, no, this is right. It's like, because a year previously, Ray, who is still my boss to this day and a great friend and mentor, it's like, hey man, I think need you over here. Think you can do a lot. You've shown a lot of leadership ability, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, I hear that, but no. And then basically the travel is what broke me. Because, as I mentioned, I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and, then a 4-year-old, 2-year-old as they aged. And the year before I moved, I was not there for both of their birthdays, and I was on the road. And I remember one night I was like, I added it all up, and I was gone, like, literally, if you add it up, like 3 months of the year. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was gone this long. I missed a quarter of a year on the road. And all the while, Katie is juggling everything. She's a teacher, and she was a high school choir director, which is basically like being a teacher and a coach year round with the hours, because there's musical and there's all these rehearsals and extra stuff and concerts. So she was gone all the time for that. And so she's running the kids around, doing all that, doing the school thing, teaching, coming home late. And we were just like, I don't know how we did it. We were just young and just thought this is what like life is, I guess. And it was super, super tough. And that much travel broke me. And really it was the best thing, because I didn't know, I kind of always like, once I got into that role, I was like, this is it. This is the job I want. I just want this job forever. I don't care if I'm not worried about a big raise. I'm not worried about that really. I mean, eventually I was like, okay, I do want a raise, but at the time I was like, just keep me in this role. This is it. I just want to write and rank and talk about wrestling. That's what I'm good at. But then Ray got to me, and I'm really glad, because I'm really happy in my current role now. But sometimes you need people to like sort of nudge you along, right? And be like, be that wind at your back, right? And be like, no, you can. No, we need you here, actually. And that's kind of how that materialized. And I've been in Austin since August of 2016 now.
So basically, where you're working now, you kind of have, I wouldn't say, you kind of do have artistic, not freedom. It's weird to phrase it that way, because you're not making up music or stuff like that, but I guess you're making your own.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I mean, yeah, that's one thing I always loved about Flow, is like, no one was like, even from early on, no one was like, okay, Christian, you're going to write this about this and do it then. It's kind of like, all right, CP, what do you got this week? Okay, I want to do this. Okay, do it. Do a good job. And then you're totally like in control of your own destiny. The phrase we use is being a CEO of your own work. And no matter where you are on the pecking order at Flow, like you can bring your ideas to life, especially content ideas, which I love that because I could try new things and sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And I think that kind of freedom and creativity is a big part of Flow's advantage, is that we kind of let people, we trust people, we hire talented people who are passionate about what they do and have the skills and kind of let them go. And that structure, it works for us. So yeah, definitely artistic, although I'm no artiste. You're on the right track there.
You could, I mean, just like you were saying with the message boards, you were just so entranced with them that you kind of, I guess, you kind of got a mind for the wrestlers and then the way they played. And obviously they saw that, you know what I mean? Like they saw your spirit, that you knew what was going on and that you were putting like the effort towards it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even get, I mean, there's a lot of other people I didn't mention. Like for me, one of my biggest mentors and in coaching was a guy named Terry Waters, who was at the time, well, when I came up, he was a coach at Fort Defiance High School, which is that's the high school that Dell Curry went to, the father of Steph Curry. He was a coach there in Virginia in Augusta County, and then he actually got fired over some nonsense. This is a black man that got fired in Augusta County for some BS. I'll just leave it at that. But he is a legendary coach. He actually just got inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame very recently. And anyway, he knew I didn't know anything, but he would answer any question. He would be a support to all my wrestlers, any of my wrestlers at any point in time. If we needed a place to work out, if I had a technical problem to solve, because I didn't have the answers for a lot of problems, I could get you to a certain point. And then I'd be like, okay, I got Zach to this point, but I'm kind of capped out for my brain. And I'm always trying to learn, but he's beyond. I need to get him in front of people that really know what they're doing. So Terry was huge for that and really was a constant support for me and giving me that and helping wrestlers. So a true wrestling man of the sport and someone I really owe a lot to.
And is that, I guess, kind of your biggest regrets, that kind of, since you only had 2 years of actually like real PT time wrestling, that maybe some of these other people kind of have a leg up on you?
Well, it was just 1 year. I only did it my senior year, but yeah, I think it was so as I played it out in my head, I'm like, you know what? I have to be satisfied with how it worked out. Because one, you can't change it. And two, if I started as a sixth grader, maybe by the time I graduated, I'd have been done with it. I'd have been burnt out and I don't even want to watch a wrestling match. Instead, all it did was like, it just was the spark. And then it just kept this flame going for till right now and beyond. I'll probably love it forever as a result of that. But this sport chews a lot of people up and spits them out, and they get to the end of it and they're like, no. Like Ryan's like that. Ryan doesn't want to watch. Ryan was done when Ryan was done wrestling. Ryan was done wrestling, and he'll watch some matches and do it, but he's not into it. It's like that's common. Ryan lived a wrestling life. Ryan cut weight. Ryan worked his tail off. I saw it. He sacrificed a ton. He didn't love it, but he did it. And he had a lot of success, but that was not, that didn't bring him joy. And so he got to the other side of it. It was like, all right, that was cool. Like my dad doesn't understand college wrestling. He's like, you need to go out for the Virginia Tech team. It's like, I'm like, Dad, no, dude. You don't understand what is happening in that wrestling room right now compared to what Ryan's doing. Like Ryan was a good single A wrestler, but like the levels you have to jump to just be a dude in a Virginia Tech wrestling room or a D1 wrestling room is like insane. Dad didn't really get it, but at least Ryan definitely did. And also that would have been insane. I think I mentioned like my parents as a big advantage, like my mom. I have an interesting parental dynamic. My parents probably a little, Michael, like two very strong personalities, which normally there's like a little more give and take, and they're different. Their strength is a little different. Like Dad is a lot more broadly outspoken, but two very strong-willed, opinionated people. I feel like that really helped me be a convicted person and like watching dad through his job and through, his time in local politics, and like just how principled he was, and like how fired up he would get, but also like he always worked to back it up with like dad had, as the kids would call it, the receipts. Like he was in the numbers. He knew his material better than all his opposition. That's why they hated him. And I was like, you know what? I kind of liked, even though he got some hate or whatever for local media or whatever, I love that dad was like at the center of it all and fighting. And sometimes he was on his own and it didn't really matter to him because the principles were strong, and that was important to him. And like I think that's really served me a lot in my job. It served me a lot as an on-camera personality. I think it helped give me that confidence, founded or not, like to like, you know what, your stuff, believe it, have convictions. It's a good thing. And so I think a lot of that is a result of being Tracy's boy.
And I think you knocked out one of my questions, what I was going to ask you. Basically, where'd you get the drive to be who you are today? And I think you basically answered that.
I don't know. Yeah, my parents definitely big drivers. I think honestly for me, it was I needed to find the thing, right? I would not have described myself as driven in elementary, middle, or high school, really. I mean, I was like a below average student, like not like I was a bad student. I would bet of the kids that got the quote, whatever it even means, the advanced diploma, which is mean like you take some extra math or whatever. I bet I had one of the lowest GPAs of any of those kids. It was really bad. I was not a good student. I was like, I never fully I didn't max out my athletic potential in high school at all. So I think I needed to meld it with, I think the drive came when I found my passion and the route I wanted to go. And then I think that then I felt like, okay, now I can unlock all these tools that my parents have instilled in me, because until that point, I didn't have the self-discipline. I didn't have that drive that is common for someone that wants success, right? So it took a little bit for me to find my way. I'm not freaking Ryan, who's like straight A's all through all of school and college. Like, give me a break. That was never me. I was never like that. So yeah, I think my parents definitely, a coach one time like called me and just kind of asked me, he was calling a bunch of people, like he coaches at the collegiate level. He's like, how'd you know you could do this? He's kind of getting into that. And he was saying he'd been talking to a bunch of people. And I told him that, like, I don't know, I just thought I could do it. And he said that was like a common thread in a lot of people. And I think I probably wouldn't have believed in myself if my parents hadn't, right? I think I just had a very big advantage with my parents, both helping in different ways for sure.
It's funny. I've never seen three brothers, because I think Weston's got strong drive. Just like you said, it's about passion. And yeah, I've never actually seen that with three brothers. There's always like one brother who's kind of like mellow out, the chill one. But I feel like all three of you, no matter what the desire is, you guys have strong drives. Like, yeah, there's something to it. I mean, I guess it's all, they'll love this. It's all Debbie and Tracy, I guess. But yeah, intense. We're sort of intense people. Ryan's intense. Weston's probably the least intense, but he can be, I mean, yeah, when he focuses, pretty intense guy. I'm obviously like too intense. It's something I like, can definitely, it's two-edged, right? Just two-edged probably for dad. It's definitely two-edged with me. It's something that I have to like own and like monitor and like be constantly evaluating like how it is. Cause not everyone is like, it's two-edged. So yeah, when I had you do that personality test, you got 8s. I've actually never seen anyone test to an 8 before. Type 8s are self-confident, strong, and assertive, and you've already shown that through the interview. Protective, resourceful, straight talking, and decisive. So like I said before we started the interview, there's at least 30 names here. I'm just gonna pick out some of the ones that I think are closest to that. They're gonna be like on complete. We've got Donald Trump, Clint Eastwood, James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Matt Damon, Russell Crowe.
Okay. James Brown's one of my I listen
Saddam
to
Hussein.
Saddam?
He's on here.
Did Genghis Khan do an Enneagram? Is he on there too? Is Genghis
no,
on?
not on this one.
Yeah,
But,
so these are some bad. These aren't the best and brightest, but some of them are.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Damon's not bad, and they got Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill. Yeah, so what it's saying here is basic fear of AIDS is of being harmed or controlled by others. Basic desire is to protect themselves or be in control of their own destiny and their life.
Yeah.
But yeah, does that kind of stem off of your thoughts or desires?
That maps, man. I like. I don't think it's a good. Like I said, I really believe in myself. I believe in my instincts. I think, served me well, and yeah, I am assertive, and I like to be deliberate, and yeah, that all makes sense to me. I'm strong-willed, strong personality for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Last thing. What is something that this is, I guess, honing in on Debbie and man, I forgot his name, but I love him. Tracy. What is one thing that your parents did that you're already doing or want to keep on doing to pass on to your kids? And what's something that you're kind of avoiding that they did that you're kind of going in a different direction with?
So I think I'm doing a lot of the things that they did. I think keeping kids involved in things and involved in the church is really important. And we were basically in church every single Sunday that was possible. And we've done that and found a great community here in Round Rock, First Baptist Church Round Rock, which is a great place. That's definitely something that was great. We like to gas our kids up too and tell them, that they can do it all. And I remember a conversation with Caleb early on. Caleb was very, very bright. He's really a really smart kid. He had like a photographic memory when he was young. Like he was really smart. But he goes to this elementary school, which is full of, it's like the most competitive. It's in all of Round Rock, which is a huge school district. It's like the best test scores. It's like a lot of Dell and Samsung like program engineers kids work there. It's like we live in one town, but my wife teaches at this school, and it's this like big ritzy neighborhood, whatever. So a lot of really competitive kids. And I remember this kid told in Caleb's friend group, he's like, it was like first grade, maybe kindergarten. He's like, you're the one that's good at sports, and I'm the smart one. The kid said, I'm smart. You're the one that's good at sports. And Caleb said, it's like, yeah, I'm actually the smart one. In our friends, it's him. I said, no way, man. I said, no. I was like, you can be as smart as anyone. You can get as good grades as anyone. And like, I don't know. I do that a lot. I just try to get them to believe in themselves. And like, but also it's like that it's got to be like backed up by like diligence and hard work and like a lot of things that I didn't have. And so I guess the thing that I would change about that I'm changing is like I'm much more I wish, because like who knows if this would have been the case for me, but I wish someone was just like on me to like do what I said I was going to do. You said you were going to do this. Okay. You said you were going to run cross country. Okay. So my whole thing is like, if you're going to do something, you're really going to do it. You're going to commit to it, because anything that's worth doing is worth doing well, worth doing the right way. And so I don't think I didn't do school the right way for sure, but I didn't approach athletics the right way. I didn't approach like strength training at all in the right way. And I wish someone had said, no, man, this is not what you actually signed up for. Because when you signed up for cross country and track, you actually signed up to actually be your best and actually get the most out of yourself. And you're not, you didn't run any this summer, Christian. You tried to get in shape the last little bit so wouldn't be totally gassed first practice, but you weren't doing it. I wish they did that. And not that they weren't like, hey, you should, but then if I didn't do it, they weren't going to push the issue. And I don't blame them for that. It's like, you know what? Fine, don't do it. But I think, that's something I'm like, all right, if we're going to play baseball, we're going to try to get good at baseball. If we're going to do school, we're going to do our very best. And, so that's kind of been my approach with Caleb and Natalie. And, it's been good. They're productive, happy kids. They're 10 and 8. So, the wheels could fall off, but right now it's been awesome. And I really believe that they can do great things and like be absolute all-stars at whatever they decide to do. So I feel like if you build the habits of like, no matter what you're doing, you're trying to do it the best you possibly do. Like Ryan just did this. Ryan was like doing things. Ryan did school and just did the best he could. And Ryan did sports and tried to be the best he could. Like I didn't. And so if you do that in everything, then that translates to everything. You're going to be an all-star professionally. You're going to be an all-star parent. You're going to be so it all works together. And like faith, like if we're going to be a Christian and a person that follows, what Jesus says, then we need to love people. We need to treat people the right way. So it all works together. It's maybe a little idyllic and it's unattainable, but I think it's a good goal and standard to have for kids. And I think it's missing. Expectations are missing for kids in America, and it's bad. And I think we need to believe that they can really do that. They can do. I think there's a lot of find your way, figure it out. But how are they supposed to figure it out? They don't know anything. He's 6. If he wanted to figure it out, he would just eat Fritos and ice cream all day. You've got to. I never understood the hands-off, laissez-faire. Oh, whatever he wants, he's his own person. It's like, okay, yeah, but you're trying to build. What kind of person do you want? Do you want a person that just indulges themselves? Because that is what is in us. What is in our innermost sinful being is to like indulge ourselves, is to take the path of least resistance or do what feels good. It's like, but that's actually death. That's the wrong way. There's the other way. And so like, that's a standard that's really tough, but it's also like, I think it's what's missing too. I remember this one guy was like, I saw him going up to the burner and I didn't say anything. I was like, well, he won't touch it again. I was like, or you could just tell him that he's going to burn his hand because he's 4 and he probably won't do that too. It's like, hey, you're going to really hurt your hand if you do this. It's like, I don't know. There's some weird new age parenting stuff. I'm glad I wasn't. Who knows what I would be? Because I already have, I've already like explained that I had these like impulses that can be like, the least resistance, what feels good, what's easy. It's like it'd be easy to fall into that if my parents had let me. Fortunately, they didn't.
Yeah. So your parents are who made you today.
Yeah, man. Shout out Churchville. Shout out Debbie Tracy, 540 Churchville Avenue till I die. But even though I'm here in Austin, it's like I do miss a lot about home for sure. And it's like there's like I live near how many thousand people within like a quarter mile or whatever, but like I don't know most of them because it's like there's not that community tie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where you're from exactly. I think you're from Northern Virginia. You probably, but
Maryland. But
Maryland.
I get what you're saying. Just because where you're from, basically, you go to the grocery store, everyone in the grocery store.
Yeah, it's like definitely. It's like you can't go in Walmart and not see someone And like I remember when I was like, I got snitched on by a freaking neighbor who saw me driving fast, and he told my dad that I was driving fast. But he told my dad, and a week later I got a speeding ticket. Busted. And I can't remember if dad told me or was like, or only after I got the ticket was he like, yeah, Mouse told me you were speeding the other week and you should slow down. I should have said something.
Well, yeah, you don't have anyone near around your house that's named Mouse, right?
Not this house, but in Churchville, there's a dude named Mouse that walks up and down Churchville Avenue, and like he'll literally like he's just a nosy person.
More like snitch.
He's a snitch. He snitched on me. No snitches in the Pyles household either. But yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know your time is very valuable, sir.
Oh well, so is yours. It's all the same.
If you like this week's episode of People More Interesting Than Me, please follow me on Apple Podcasts so you won't miss out on more episodes like these.